right. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Welcome, everyone. I'm Cynthia Hawkins, Gallery Director and Curator at SUNY Geneseo's Bertha V. Lederer Gallery. Thank you for joining us. The gallery is located on the campus of the State University of New York at Geneseo. This exhibition, Salt of the Earth, is one of 2 virtual exhibitions that will open the academic year 21-22. And I am pleased to introduce Olivia Kim, an extraordinary figurative sculptor. She's a resident of Rochester, New York. Her exhibitions include Birchfield Penny Art Center, Bennington Art Center, the Bromley Fine Art Gallery in Ireland, Castle La Rocca di Montefiorno, the Brackenstown House in Ireland. And in 2011, she had a solo show here at the Lederer Gallery. Her work is in many private collections. She's received many commissions, and she teaches as well. Welcome, Olivia. The PowerPoint will roll during the course of our conversation so people can see the work that's being exhibited. So,
okay.
How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. So let's start with your background. Tell us, what compelled you to become an artist and why the figure?
I'd have to say that when I was a very, very small child, I had this kind of intuition that I needed to do art in this lifetime. I'm sure there are plenty of children that have that experience, I just imagined myself doing many things, doing many projects, and that inspiration was so important to me that I kept doing it throughout my entire life. I chose to work with the figure pretty much. I think it has to do with my interest in people and also understanding myself. So I found that with the practice of realism, which is essentially observational artwork, is that when I observe a person, so my work is all based on people or things that I've observed, okay? So in the act of observation, you really get to come in contact with the inner qualities of people, and you start to realize that it's really about learning about yourself, because I found that when I observe something, it's me asking the question of what is actually here, and the more that I can see, the more in others, the more I can see in myself too, and vice versa.
So so you have this extensive background of study. What artists influenced you early on? Who influences do you think, whose work do you really like now?
Okay, I know that as a younger person, I used to like science fiction and fantasy books, reading a lot. And I used to like Salvador Dali, his paintings, with surrealism. I think because I just found reality to be very boring, and that's how it is, I guess, as a kid, right? But I think for sure, though, that as I got older, I started to realize that there's certain to discern between I don't know, what would you say? There's fantasy that is wholesome and you feel like it really connects to a deeper truth. And then there's fantasy that's just kind of more superficial. And I just found that after a while, naturally I gravitated towards things that had a much deeper root to it, something that really resonated. So as my taste in art changed, I used to like Rodin, Auguste Rodin's work, Rodin, the French sculptor. But his work gets a little dark, brings you kind of to the darker side of humanity. So my longtime favorite has been a painter, a Russian painter named Nicholas Roerich.
Mm.
Oddly enough, I'm a sculptor, but I love paintings. I His work was really quite interesting in that he explored the various deeper kind of like spiritual roots of humanity, and he was really interested in the how I mean, in his work, it manifested as the heroes and the very spiritual figures throughout humanity's various cultures. But I think that the underlying root is pretty much a universal one, So I really love his work. When it comes to sculpture, I'm not really. I am trying to make the sculpture that I want to see in the world.
Mm.
I hate to say it, but I haven't been feeling satisfied. So that's why I'm an artist, because I want to see different things in the world. So I'm making it. I'm making what I want to see.
That's well, you are really, it's extraordinary, your work. I love it. And but I
Thank
now I
you.
want to ask you, it's like you continue to study, to take courses in various materials. You work in clay and bronze and glass and cast aluminum. What necessitates this array of materials?
Well, I have a very deep need to learn. And I found that with every kind of material, you see, it's the advent of floating around in your mind with a cell phone in your hand. and and the thing is, the thing that I've been seeing is that because of that, because people have been gravitating towards this floating head phenomenon, way of life, we're forgetting our contact with materials. And I find that with every single type of material, that's drawing and painting included, every material has a different kind of voice to it. And when you touch a material and when you come in contact with it, it will tell you and it will express different things. So every material has a different kind of life to it. And just like I said, that observing people has helped me to know myself, deeper levels of myself. I found that materials will resonate with different levels or different aspects of myself being alive and other people being alive. So materials such as bronze, let's say, or aluminum, these are two different types of metal. They have different types of reflectivity. They reflect light differently, or they absorb light differently. They can take colors differently. And I find that especially with monumental bronzes, they really can exude the monumental, the long-lasting aspect of being alive, of being a human being, and as opposed to, let's say, glass, right? Glass, because of its ability to transmit light, to reflect and scatter, and to almost disappear. There's certain sculptures that I make that they literally look like they disappear. Oh, sorry for the motorcycle. They literally disappear in their environment. I find that will exude, and it'll embody that more ephemeral part of ourselves, of our humanity, the part that can melt into our environment and feels as it's part of everything around it, and doesn't have to have this big personality. I want this, I want that, but can actually be part of the environment, you know. So that's why I love these materials, because they teach me a lot. They show me a lot of things. They inspire me, and I hope they uh, reflect the multiplicity of our beingness.
So this one, this piece, Omni, is what the kind of thing you're talking about, right? So the gold leaf, what does the gold leaf do for the piece?
Yes. So yes, this is an interesting piece because so it has a black background, so you can really see the outline and you can see the shape and the form of the sculpture. But if it had a white background, it would totally almost disappear. So here it's a melding between the metal and the glass. And gold leaf is very warm. It casts a warm glow, as opposed to, let's say, palladium. Okay, palladium leaf, which I've used as well. It doesn't tarnish. It's a silver color, so it's a metal that doesn't tarnish like silver does. So I've tried both, and palladium casts a very cold light, almost a bluish light, right? When it reflects light off of it. So the metal on this, you can see how the light falls on it. It gives it a sense of solidity. And yet, because the gold reflects warmth, it's as if, oh, it's very strange. It's almost like a sun. It's almost like a sun inside that person, that's where the light falls on it, and then it reflects this light of the sun, you know? And at the same time, there's that transparency, which makes you feel as if the thing doesn't even exist because it's so subtle. So it's an in-between place of uh, being this, you know, dense material person, and yet this very subtle person.
Yeah, it also acts like a highlight, you know.
Yes, yeah, yeah. It's yeah.
Really beautiful. And from this image, you get a sense almost like a painting, the highlights of the light, you know, touching the face. And is the gold leaf inside the glass or is it outside of the glass? You know what I mean?
Yes, yes. Um, so it's on the surface of the sculpture. It's only applied on the surface of the sculpture. And that's very interesting that you relate it to painting, because that is part of um what brought this on, this type of surface treatment, is that yes, the reflectivity of the gold and the intensity of the reflectivity, the way it reflects light, creates these highlights, which thus translates in our brain, you know, what three-dimensional form is.
Mhm.
So it does solidify the sculpture in a sense and makes it less seamless, airy. Um, yeah, it's complex stuff.
Yeah. And so also I see that you have a couple of pieces called Tango,
Mhm,
um, Sunset, and At Dusk. All right, here's
mhm.
Tango at Dusk. And you took tango lessons?
Yes.
I'm assuming, you know, sort of in preparation for these series, or did the lessons facilitate these two pieces? Because from the way I read, the way you like to learn, that you might have wanted to experience the body movement yourself.
Yes. So this is one of the types of research that I do. So it's not just tango, actually. So in observing human beings, right? I've always been wondering, what is the universal connection between human beings? And I used to think it was this, I used to think it was that. And then I found that it all pointed towards this kind of more specific parts of human beings. I found one of the universal parts of being alive is that we all have bodies and we all move. So I became very interested in what universal movement is.
Hmm.
So one of the avenues has been studying dance, world dances. And in particular, I've done everything from, Garth Fagan dance technique, but I really gravitated towards partner dancing, social dancing.
Mhm.
And it's because I've been noticing when I notice people moving about, there's a stress that occurs in the body because we're walking around on two legs. And this thing of walking on two legs, if you look at a gorilla, let's say, walking around on four legs and they're running after you, you better be really scared because they're fast. But if you see a gorilla walking around on two legs, you'll notice how they're wobbling around in space. So us human beings walking on two legs experience a certain kind of stress in our bodies. And I've been trying to figure out what is the most harmonious body movement. And the road, on that road of discovery, one of the things I've found was social dancing, which is two people dancing together. And what you have is two people, if you break it down to the fundamental, they're pushing and pulling, pushing and pulling. And when one person pushes, the other person gets to ride off of that push and get a slight moment of relaxation. There are various physical dynamics that occur that help to that emphasize tension and relaxation between two people who are essentially, learning how to get along. So, this Tango at Dusk is actually of my tango instructor, Diana Kelly. And through the art of dance, I've been learning these, it's not just through dance, but through dance, I've been learning what harmonious movement is like and the kinds of feelings and the kinds of emotions that can happen when we do practice something that's really fun, but also have these moments where we discover really harmonious movement.
So let me ask you about this particular piece. I like the coloring of it is just really interesting, so that it looks as though sunset, say dusk, is happening from the inside of the figure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what did you do here? Is this like cast? This is glass, but it also has color in it. How did this work? Does this?
Okay. So the way I made it was okay, so I make the sculpture in clay first. So I have a metal armature that looks like a stick figure covered in clay, and I make the figure. Then from that, I'll make a rubber mold, which will capture all the details of the clay. Then, so I'm doing lost wax process, where you make a wax copy, and then you make a new mold. Then you melt that wax out. So the new mold can withstand high temperatures. I put the new mold into a kiln, and I'll melt different for the figure. I melted two types of red, a ruby red and a scarlet red. So more orange and then a more pink red. More pinkish red, magenta red. And those are in the shape of billets. That's like a flat rectangle glass. Melt that into the mold, and then so I just uh, and then the base, right, was also made in wax as well. So this was all cast into one piece.
Mm.
So you have one reservoir where it's this deep red, and then the other reservoir has little pieces of colored red glass, and then also apricot colored glass. So it all melts in and it flows in. And you try to control it, but part of the beauty and the stress is that you don't know
Right.
precisely down to last detail how it's going to look.
It's really amazing, and I mean, the skill involved is really enormous. I mean, but there's also still this sense of chance, at the same time, right?
Yeah, that's life.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And let's see the other one. And then I want to mention, like, look at that. Well, here's the other tango. All right. And this
Yeah.
sunset. And this is completely covered with gold leaf, is it not?
Yes, this one's completely covered in gold leaf. So yeah, I do this on purpose. I think it's really important that people start to realize that there are multiple layers to our lives, and this is kind of the more solid version, right? The other one where it's like this really ephemeral feeling, this is more solid. So this really is how it feels to dance tango when you have those incredible moments of harmony. It really feels like it's a very earthy kind of experience. You're dancing with somebody and you're paying really close attention to the moment. And when there's a moment of harmony, oh my goodness, it's like butter. It's like a sun coming out of your heart. It's pretty amazing.
Hmm. Really, I never heard dance, partner dancing, described that way. But she looks like there's a sense of feeling of the sublime on the sculptor's the face, right? She's like
Yeah.
totally involved. So
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and this Earth song too, on the other hand, I mean, this is the ephemeral that you speak of, right? Yeah.
Yes.
This is,
Yep.
could you tell us more about this piece?
Oh, this piece is pretty epic. Um, so well, first of all, the model is a good friend. She's I used to live and study in Italy for a while, for almost a decade. And during my little adventures, I made many friends. And this one sings opera. So she was literally singing for me. So I wanted to do a sculpture, somebody singing. And she's very tall and thin. And she would always complain because physically, that's conducive to a very low voice.
Oh, really?
Yep, to a low voice. And she was like, "Oh, I want a high voice." You know how people are. The grass is always greener. so so she'd sing for me, and I wanted to express what happens when she sings. And there was this time where she brought me to this high school. It was like after hours. She was like, "Hey, this is the classroom that I teach in, right?" And she decided to sing Ave Maria for me, you know, a song dedicated to Mother Mary in the Christian religion, because Italy's very much Catholic. That's the
Mhm.
dominant religion there. So she was singing, right? And it was just, she's one of those people. She's like she caused troubles. Other people are troublemakers. Well, this little secret that I found was that, these troublemakers in our lives, if you watch them very closely, they're going to show you something amazing. about something. Yeah. So it was one of those moments where, normally she's causing troubles and she's complaining and this and that, but she started to sing, and this song just exuded the most phenomenal kind of energy and feeling. It just filled the room. It filled me, and it felt like it was like literally just changing the world. So yeah, I know, it's incredible, right? Our beloved troublemakers, right? The ones that cause us the most grief, and yet there's something amazing that's inside. They'll only show it if you're watching very carefully. So she was very inspiring. I made the sculpture, and many years passed. And I kept saying, I want to make this sculpture. I want to make this sculpture, and it's going to be this, it's going to be that. So during the whole time of so I made this in 2020. Yeah. So during the time of Corona, when there was so much chaos going on, and people were feeling so uprooted and very fearful, very scared, I thought, shoot, I want to make this piece. And I wasn't necessarily thinking about trying to change people or this or that, but I was like, I'm going to make something. I want to make an earth song. I want to make something where I want to show this feeling that this seemingly chaotic person, right? Out of this chaos, there's an incredible order and harmony, and you can still find it. And this sculpture is incredible. This photo doesn't even halfway convey how complex it is. It's actually the most complex glass piece I've ever made. So the bottom portion where her feet are, it's like an opaque, dark, mossy green. It looks like moss agate, if anybody's familiar with semi-precious stones. So it looks like this dark green glass, and it looks like a stone. So it looks very dense, right? And then interspersed, there are these areas of transparency and translucency, and the body, the legs, and the hands and the head are actually more like it flows. You can see it around in the belly area. It looks like the striations of tree bark. Yeah. So it almost is like she's almost like a tree growing out of the earth, and then out of her heart there's just all this magic coming out, right? This wonderful emotion. So this, I always just say, it's these pieces are a gift. Artists learn about themselves. Young ones learn about themselves. They learn about their personality, the positive and the negative. But as you mature as an artist, you realize that much greater things step in. Nature itself wants to have its voice, and this to me was like a gift from Mother Nature, saying, there's chaos, but there is something, something much deeper that helps us, root ourselves down.
Right. Yeah. So while this is like last year. Now, I noticed a real change in your handling of your work from what is that? Out of the Abyss, and another 2013 piece. Well, this one, his Inner Sun, that since 2010, 15, the last after that, there seems to be a little more not like flexibility, but more subtle handling of the clay. It's not as like looking for, such anatomical features, So if you see in where is it? In this one, how this figure is like the muscles are really protruding, and and here as well. But I mean, this just is experience, but on the other hand, it's also like your treatment of the clay has evolved to provide a more subtle kind of appearance of the flesh, say.
Yes, that all has to do, that's all tied in with so the Out of the Abyss, that silvery aluminum one, that actually was a time of great fear. Okay, you know how I said we learn about our dark and our light
Yeah,
sides, right? It's all us, right?
right.
So that one was a time when I was that's when I was living in Italy and trying to make it, make my living with my artwork. So I actually went through a really some years of great fear. And it's actually before 2010, but it culminated to that point.
Mhm.
So here you see, um, I'm trying to uh, understand what universal movement is, and the pragmatic part of that is you have to learn all the anatomy, so bones to muscles, and so it's very much gross anatomy, and I'm still learning it. Right, it takes many years. Right, it's like 11 years later,
Mhm.
12 years later. Right, so I at that time when I made Out of the Abyss, it was still very much unknown to me what the body was, its dimensions, its very dimensions, and what movement was. So I had to create a bridge between my mind and my body, because the conscious mind, actually operates slower than the physical body does.
Mhm.
And because of this time gap, it was really hard to capture movement, to understand movement, because I would always understand too late.
Hmm.
So that's why I had to go through so many different types of physical disciplines to understand body movement. It's to bridge that timing gap between the conscious mind and the subconscious physical body. You know, so the treatment of the clay. So when I made this piece, Inner Sun, right? It
Yeah.
was after some years, I finally was starting to sense that connection between the mind and body. And that's why it's much more subtle. Um, and I'm not searching as much. I still wasn't as sure yet about some of the aspects of what keeps pulls our bodies up, helps us move
Yeah.
in space. But here I have already made some progress.
Mhm.
And then when it comes to that Sunset Tango piece, where it's very subtle, it's a very subtle movement, very subtle feeling and connection. That is the result of even more understanding.
Yeah.
So it's all study, it's constant study, it's constant research. It's literally like, it's as literal as walking and breathing, sitting and sleeping, really, working hard to pay attention, pay
Yeah. I
attention,
know.
because
I don't think people really understand that artists really to how long it takes to become the artist you want to be, to really understand your craft in your bones. So I completely understand. And even with that, all the things that people go through just living in the course of evolving, right? So, but yeah, a lot of people don't understand how much work it really is to be really good at your craft. So I appreciate this. So
thank you.
I really do. So how about a little bit about the Frederick Douglass Commission. What was it like working with so many volunteers? How did the commission happen? And I want everyone to know that you were awarded uh, Re-Energizing the Legacy of Frederick Douglass Award for Outstanding Partnership. And certainly there were many, many people who volunteered. How many actual statues did you make? And yeah, what was that like working with all these people?
Okay. Well, it all started with if you go to the drawing
Mhm.
called Chicky Mama.
Yes.
So I made that drawing of a local dance instructor, Frances Hare,
Yes, I
and
working on this.
oh, she's a lovely woman. So it's a very large drawing, and so Carvin Eisen was the director of the Frederick Douglass Bicentennial countywide, all right, Monroe County-wide, as well as City of Rochester. So he's the director of Rochester Community Television Center, and Blue Cease, the director of Rochester Contemporary Art Center, he produced this exhibit called No Soil Better, Re-Energizing the Legacy of Frederick Douglass. So I was invited as one of the artists to produce a work. I think because I've just been, like I said, I'm interested in people, so I think maybe that was the bent, right? And so we were being interviewed very early in the morning. It was like 5 a.m. And when you have sand under your eyelids, you're like, I can't open them. And Carmen and I, while we're waiting for a news channel to interview us, right, about the exhibit, we're talking, and he's saying, I really wish that I really wish that you could do this project. And I'm like, really? I'm like, well, why don't you just ask me? you know? So there was very little time. Let's just say that there was little time. I was commissioned to make a sculpture of Frederick Douglass, which was a combination of the original 1899 bronze. It's the first sculpture dedicated to an African American in the history of the United States, which has been at our Highland Park in the recent years. So I was supposed to make a life-size version because the original is 8 feet tall, make it life-size so that it's street level and people can relate to him, and then combine the hands. And I actually even sculpted the face too. I did a combination between the face and the hands of Douglass's living descendant, 3 times removed, great grandson, Ken Morse Jr. He's also the twice removed grandson of Booker T. Washington. And the point was to do this combination to create a connection between our historical past and also how the struggle to end human slavery on this planet has continued on to this day. Believe it or not, slavery in this time period is worse than the time of Frederick Douglass. And so the point was to, bring awareness to the fact that it still needs to end. People need to know about it. People have made Douglass into a racial issue, but if you read his Life and Times of Frederick Douglass, you'll realize that he just wanted slavery to end. It had nothing to do with race. Abolitionists are of all colors and all types, and I think people have forgotten that. So I made this sculpture, and at first it was a secret, and because there was such a deadline, yeah, I know, it was supposed to be a secret. There's this big unveiling and everything scheduled for July. I had 3.5 months to make it. So I was asked to make 13. Um, I was like, I can't do all that many. So I made 3 with the help of 150 volunteers.
Wow.
So, but actually, let me rephrase that. We made 3 at first for the July, inauguration. Then we continued, and then it became a public sculpture project, and we completed the last 10, and that took at least 150 volunteers to make. And then after that, and so we finished that in I believe it was October, or maybe even, no, it was in September. So we worked record speed. It was awful. For me. It
Yeah.
was fun and awesome for the volunteers, because we got people from all walks of life, because Douglas is so inspiring. Everybody knows what struggle is. Everybody can relate to that. And to admire a person who just, struggled through so much and found himself, amidst all that chaos, and still had space to love, people,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. So many people showed up, all kinds, all ages, all occupations, belief systems. My goodness, we had people coming from, like, we had a German art critic, um, just, it was insane. We had house cleaners, we had DJs, we had veterans, the deaf community came, little children. I mean, my goodness, it was phenomenal for them. Incredible, but incredibly stressful for me, but
Yeah.
also phenomenal too. So all those years of learning about how the body moves, I have to say, was one of the key reasons why that project was successful in a pragmatic sense, because very quickly I could show people how to do things in an efficient way, so that hard work is efficient work. And when it's efficient, you can get a lot done, and you can get it done well. So I think it broke that whole thing of, people trying to avoid hard work. They realized that with hard work, really great results come, and it's very satisfying. It's worth it.
Yeah.
So all the love and enthusiasm of these people just poured into this work, and it really became this positive force in our community. And this is all pre-corona. So I think it was very important, because it brought our community together in a way that helped us. I think it did help contribute to us being able to rise with the tide, and all the stress that was going to come afterwards. So we did the 13. This project, it just keeps expanding. We've made 17 so far. So even more, so over 200 volunteers have worked on this project since the beginning of the project. And, it still keeps growing. The other thing too is that I think, because of the strong effect that this had, through better for worse, because two sculptures were vandalized. One in December 15th, 2018, right after the project was done, and then on July 5th, 2020. So both occasions, right, were really stressful for the community, because everybody was really angry.
Yeah.
The first occasion, it was 2 students. Second occasion, nobody knew who it was. And in both occasions, everybody's like, why are you trying to destroy something positive? And I think the first one, I know everybody has various takes on what happened, but I think that the most important thing that happened was that it did bring up the past, because it was at a school. It was at the old Seward School location.
Yeah.
on the site of Alexander and Tracy Streets that Douglas was vandalized. So it brought up old misgivings, and it was interesting that it was two students that vandalized it, you know? So I think what I learned from that was that with old misgivings, you get to re-look at the past and then say, now what am I going to do? What am I going to do with now? How am I going to transform this moment so that we can actually come out in a under a positive light that will help bring about positive changes. You know, if you got misgivings about the past, you got to look at it, you know, and then say, what bothered me about this? What did I think was wrong? And then be like, you know what, I'm going to do this instead. So the really interesting thing, and this is all thanks to the director of the whole project, Hawkins-Owen, was that the two vandals received a sentence of restorative justice. So that means that they had to learn about Douglas, read about him, even write a report. They had to pay back to have a new sculpture made, and we actually met in a circle, restorative justice circle. And I can't divulge what was said, but what happened is that it comes from indigenous culture. This thing of the restorative justice circle, you talk to each other. So you notice how like you hear about what somebody thinks about you through the media,
Yeah.
and then you get really upset. But then you talk to somebody right next to you, and you realize, like, wait, this person thinks this, but the media said that. You know, you get all kinds of diverse opinions, right? Yeah. But really, the best thing is to just talk to the person. At least in our case, I'm not saying all the time, but in our case, we talk to each other. So a different kind of understanding can happen. And I'm really grateful that Carvin chose that, because I got to learn, you know, I got to talk to these people, even though I was really upset, you know, and you know, you get to see things face to face, see people face to face, figure out what was going on in their heads, and they get to know what you were thinking of. We really learned. I remember a moment where one of the young men, they also came to my studio to see how it was made, and they were like, "Whoa, this is a lot of work. Art is a lot of work. It's a lot of physical and mental work." So, you know, when they learned why we're doing this, you know, that it wasn't about one group against another. It was about, you know, humanity and promoting humanity, you know. They're like, what? They were like, whoa. It was amazing to them. They were amazed. They were really amazed. And that was a really beautiful thing. And Carvin, he you know, he emphasized, you know, let's learn from this. And instead of emphasizing on hatred, let's all put our heads together. Let's think about how to change things and how to heal old wounds and how to do things so that it's, you know, we do right by each other, all of us. It's not one-sided, right?
Right.
And it was amazing. So
yeah,
and it, you know, it set a precedent for the justice system here. So, you know, I you know, that's my thing is art, really. My thing is really art. I make the stuff and people have their reaction to it.
Right.
Yeah. So either way, the project was really difficult because I was used to working by myself in a regular small studio, and everything requires a high level of technique and knowledge and physical ability, right, to manipulate the materials. So what I learned from the project was that if you teach people properly, they can and will learn, they'll enjoy it. And I learned how to manage people. I mean, it was hard to let go of my own personal control. I learned how to let go of my personal ego I learned how to take really difficult situations and switch them around. I learned how to become a leader, right? Normally, I just want to like hide. I'm like, I mean, I want to have fun with my friends, but my goodness,
Yeah.
to tell people, okay, you got to do this. I like, how do you tell them? How do you convey it? And, um, learn how to communicate properly so that there's no confusion. Take responsibility if there is confusion. I learned what responsibility was, and it really it helped raise my self-esteem as an artist to see people appreciate art. I didn't know how much people appreciate art, and I don't think they knew either.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it's been a very big experience. Yeah.
Well, what a great job too. I mean, I can imagine how challenging that was, but it was very successful. And congratulations to you and the volunteers for that. Um,
Yeah.
so after that, I mean, we just went through 18 months. How did the pandemic impact your work? Did you get to work more, work differently? Did you think of other themes that you might use in your work that were a result of it?
Yeah, wow. The whole thing, this whole experience of as a planet, right? And everybody being having their own reactions. I really took it as a time to slow down.
Mhm.
I have been working continuously the whole time, but I have also spent a good amount of time kind of learning about this world, learning about the various systems um, that people have used to manage this world. Because a lot of the, as you we've been seeing, a lot of the chaos has been about the management of of many kinds of systems. So one is like the medical, one is the media, the politics, the family unit, right? I've been thinking a lot about these much bigger things, the bigger organization of things, um, and also, I mean, really, essentially, just the meaning of this life. When everything stops, and it's not just you, because everybody, I think, at one point or other, thinks that it's just them. They're the ones having the hard time. But I think this really made everybody realize that everybody is going through a hard time.
Right,
Um, I'm sure there's some people who are banking off of it too, but majority, let's say, we're all having a really rough time.
right.
And so yeah, so I've done a lot of soul searching, and I think it was a good time for me to let go of beliefs. You know, I think I had a lot of beliefs about what my life was about. And I think once again, it was another experience to kind of let go of. Um, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a personal ego, personal self. We all got it. It's great, ugly, it's all of it, right? But I think it helped me to see things even more as a world, as a human community, and how are we going to do things? How have we done things? What have contributed to our problems, and what has helped us to stay together? You know, but definitely, it's been a good time to see in high contrast, painting language, art language, the various forces in this world and the various forces, inside ourselves. I haven't been talking to many people in this time. I think I've really been trying to clear out all my past beliefs, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was, as you say, it was really hard for everyone. And even though it was really terrible for a lot of people, there were also like these little spaces where, one could find, you know, the ability to restart or start something new or different or something in order to facilitate some kind of change, whether it was personal or community wide. But yeah, so thank you for that. It's incredible. You're so thoughtful. Um, it's a really good experience talking with you about all of these things because you're so thoughtful about it. So, are there any particular themes you want to address in your work in the future?
Oh, geez. Future. I mean, there's so many things. I think so yeah, so presently, I've been getting many requests to make public artwork.
Mm.
And I think if things work out, yeah, I will continue to pursue that. When it comes to public artwork, oh wow, that's hard because it's the public, and and everybody wants something different. So I think if anything, just I think it's really about universality. If there's going to be anything, I'm going to still keep looking for these nuggets of what what is our what ties us together, what is our actual bond, whether if we like it or not.
Right.
But I think it's really just trying to find what ties us together, celebrate our individuality, but what's the thing that we all have in common, and it's really just it's life that's going to teach me that,
Right.
And it's also beyond life. There's something else beyond this life that we've been living that it's probably more real than this real.
Hmm.
So hopefully all that will come out in the work.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure, Olivia, that you are going to do great things. You've already done some very wonderful things, and your work is a blessing, really. And so I want to thank you so much for sharing your work with us and for spending this time talking about your work. And I really just want you to know how much I appreciate this. And
Well,
if you after a while you look at the video and you want to use it in any way for yourself, please do. It will be posted on the gallery's webpage, geneseo.edu/galleries, and there's a link to the virtual exhibit site, along
mhm.
with a exhibit that's hosted by Flickr. There's a link to it, and this interview will be also posted on YouTube on the college's YouTube channel. So
Oh, thank you.
yeah,
Thank
so
you.
send it around the world.
I'll share it.
Yeah,
Cynthia, I want to thank you because you're a great and powerful advocate for the arts.
thank you.
For real, you're the real deal. So you really help this world turn. Thank you.
Thank you, and you have a wonderful uh, rest of your weekend. All right.
All right.